Welcome to the Discrete Trial Training Performance Monitoring Tool video. You have just learned about the components of DTT and the different methods it can be implemented. This video will outline how to implement the simultaneous method of DTT, where at least 3 stimuli are introduced at the same time. If you have not done so already, please pause this video and print out a few copies of the PMT. Now let's get started. As you have learned, a PMT helps observers objectively monitor another person's performance. This PMT outlines the steps for successful implementation of DTT using the simultaneous method. Step 1 is to write your name, the date, and the client's name at the top of the datasheet. Each item of the PMT will be scored as either a 1 or a 0 or an A. Each trial with any zeros will count as a 0 for the entire trial. For items 7, 8, and 9, any subcomponent checked will also count as a 0 for that trial. Now let's get into scoring. Before teaching trials, there are a few things that need to be done. First, the RBT should gather all necessary materials such as the datasheet, a pen, and any required stimuli for the program. We can see here that the RBT has. Second, the RBT should have selected effective reinforcers, meaning that they were ranked high on the last preference assessment that was run with this particular client. For this one, she actually really likes the fidget toy. Next, she must have identified the essential components of the written skill acquisition plan, like the target responses, prompting method, and the method of stimuli presentation. In this case, she has, and the method of stimulus presentation is a simultaneous method. Now moving on to what should happen during teaching trials, steps 5 through 8 move pretty quickly and happen almost at the same time, so make sure you're listening and watching closely. Step 5 states that the RBT must secure the child's eye contact for about 2 seconds. It looks like this. Step 6 says that she must present the correct instruction. This means that the instruction matches what the program states the SD should be. The target instruction is touch, followed by one of the fruit in the array. For example, touch apple. Let's see what this looks like.
Touch apple.
In addition, step 7 says that the SD, or instruction, must meet 3 specific criteria. The first is that the instruction must be clear, meaning it's delivered without any distractor instructions. Second is that it must be concise, meaning that it has a minimal number of words, just like today's, which is just touch followed by the name of the fruit. And it should be delivered in a neutral tone, meaning that the instructor should avoid any inadvertent voice fluctuations when delivering it. Let's check again to see whether the RBT met these criteria.
Touch apple.
Yep. Looks like the instruction was clear, concise, and delivered in a neutral tone. While presenting the stimuli, the RBT's behavior must be absent of these inadvertent cues, such as eye gaze, meaning that she's looking straight ahead and not providing a clue by looking at the target, and that she's keeping her hands in a neutral position, not providing an inadvertent physical clue by covering the non-target items, for example. Let's take a look at that same moment.
Touch apple.
Perfect. Her hands are in a neutral position and her eyes are looking straight forward. For step 9, we're looking at the target items across trials. We need to make sure that the stimuli are presented equidistant apart from each other each time. Additionally, we need to make sure that they're rotated across trials. We'll see what this looks like momentarily. If the learner required a prompt and the instructor provided it correctly, we would mark it here. Otherwise, it would be NA. Now the next part of the PMT is split up into 2 options, which depends on the learner's response. If the learner responds correctly, the RBT must 11. Deliver the reinforcer, 12. Deliver it immediately within 3 seconds, and 13. It must be the appropriate amount. Alright, let's see what a correct response looks like.
Touch apple. Very good.
Great! We can see that a reinforcer was delivered, it was delivered within 3 seconds, and given that it was an independent response, she appropriately reinforced using the highest preferred item. We could also see that she rotated the items at the end of the trial. Now, if you were watching this and the learner responded incorrectly on that trial, you would simply mark NA on 11, 12, and 13. If the learner responds incorrectly, you would skip 11 through 13 and move straight to 14, which is if an incorrect response occurs. If an incorrect response occurs, the instructor should attempt to block the response and remove all materials. The removal of materials will signal the end of that trial and the beginning of the next trial. You would move right back up to the top. Finally, there are a couple of things that we should be looking at across all trials. These are under general criteria. Step 15, we need to be sure that the instructor is beginning trials within 3 to 5 seconds of the end of the last trial. Additionally, we need to make sure that they're collecting data on all trials. This is very important. Now let's take a look at the entire trial in action to see if she meets these last criteria.
Touch apple. Very good. My turn.
Yep, looks good. She collected the data and also began the trial within 3 to 5 seconds. Now let's watch a couple of trials and score the implementer's performance together. Please watch the next video and pull out your PMTs to follow along.